I've never seen anything divide public opinion as much as them. Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. We'll have a bit of a chat while I go for a walk around my local neighborhood here with the dog. A chat about what's going on in Spain and a few other things that have caught my attention over the last couple of days. So let's go. Now, the first thing I'll do is get the weather out of the way, as I normally do. A very grey, dull day today. No wind, which is good, meaning that I can record a video outside and not have wind interference. But it's cold, it's grey, it's damp, in general, an ugly day. And let's be honest, easy to feel a little bit grey and down in the dumps, depressed on a day like today. And when I see other parts of the country, for example, the Costa del Sol, Valencia, Alicante, Murcia, with fantastic weather, 22, 23, 24 degrees Celsius, and sunshine, I do get a little bit envious. But we all know what the solution is to that envy. Move to one of those places. So maybe one day I will. Now over here in front of me is a caravan that's been gutted recently by fire. I'll turn the camera around so that you can see the damage caused. As we can see, there doesn't seem to be a lot of external damage, but of course when we go inside here, the damage is quite severe. Not sure how it started. Could have been arson, most likely was arson. Maybe somebody was living in here trying to keep warm and the caravan went up in flames. The doors open, and as we can see here, everything burnt out, mattress burnt out, and just generally I don't think this can be repaired. And the smell of burning plastic and things like that also quite strong. So it looks as though somebody's going to have to buy a new caravan if they want to go on a caravanning holiday anytime soon. Unfortunate for that owner. Now, I mentioned in yesterday's live stream that the Prime Minister or President of the government here in Spain, Pedro Sanchez, has a new docu-series that's coming out. The government is organising to show what the government does in a positive light, or in particular show what the Prime Minister, Mr. Sanchez, does in a positive light. And I said yesterday that I, for one, will not be wasting my time watching this docu-series. A couple of people in the comment section asked the question of why I hate Pedro Sanchez so much, and the answer is that I don't hate Pedro Sanchez. I don't know the guy personally, but as a leader of this country, I think he's one of the worst leaders that there has ever been. And basically the reason for that opinion is that I've never seen a politician lie as much as this one and get away with it. And the lies or the mistruths started flowing from Mr. Sanchez's mouth even before he was elected. The first one, back in 2018, I think, was that he said that he would never form a government with Podemos. 1 year later, he formed a government with Podemos. That was the beginning. We were told that this government was going to be the most transparent government in the history of Spanish democracy. Again, not true. In fact, I don't think I've seen a more opaque government in its dealings in my lifetime. When it comes to Catalonia, they've basically done the opposite of everything that they said that they would do, and as a result, that independence movement in Catalonia seems to be getting stronger and stronger, even though the government on a daily basis tells us that that is not the case. All of the recent government policies, for example, changing laws when it comes to embezzlement and things like that, and also when it comes to this new sexual freedom law, they have backfired on the government, but nobody's willing to put their hand up and admit that they have made a mistake as rapists and people that are in prison for embezzlement start to get their sentences reviewed, and a lot of the times they're getting reduced sentences because of this new law. And now we hear about a 4-part television series that the government is trying to flog off to television stations and also streaming companies so that the government can clean its image. Apparently people see him as a cold leader, not really in tune with the Spanish population, and this docu-series is trying to change that image of Mr. Sanchez. And I think this is the first series of its kind here in Spain, especially one that's being released while a Prime Minister is still in power, obviously trying to get votes in an election year, and that's what a lot of people are also critical about. A Venezuelan-style television campaign to increase the popularity of a leader. I wouldn't have a problem if it were an after-the-fact television series. After he finishes his time in government, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Show people what he did, and we could remember Pedro Sanchez in a positive light or a negative light according to your point of view. But as I said, while they're currently in government, unbelievable. So for me, it's all about the timing of this docu-series. As I said, if it was after his time in politics, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But while he is the Prime Minister and in an election year, it smells a bit fishy. But hey, better not criticise this government or any other left-wing government for that matter, because you get called a nasty word. Fascist comes to mind. Now, another thing that popped up in yesterday's live stream was about urban planning here in Spain. Somebody left a comment saying that in their opinion, urban planning is absolutely shocking, especially when it comes to pedestrian crossings, and I agreed with that opinion wholeheartedly, and I'll show you why. One of the complaints of this viewer was the position of pedestrian crossings in many towns here in Spain, and as we can see, this is the biggest problem. So basically what happens is that you turn the corner here in your car, and the first thing you find is a pedestrian crossing, which can make it very, very dangerous, especially for pedestrians crossing in blind spots. And as we can see, there's a pedestrian crossing here, a pedestrian crossing there, and another one here, all very, very close to the intersection. Oh, that's right, there's another one over there too. Again, in a difficult position. Because let's say that I decided to cross this pedestrian crossing here, look to my left, and a car came screaming around this corner, which they often do, it would have to jam on the brakes to avoid a collision with me. So pedestrians beware crossing here in Spain, especially with these very badly planned pedestrian crossings. Here's another example of how the pedestrian crossing is, in many people's opinion, myself included, too close to the intersection. And another one of the complaints of this viewer was that cars, like this one, are parked too close to the pedestrian crossing. There's not enough space, and therefore people that are crossing can't see cars coming up the road, and also motorists can't see people, especially smaller people, children for example, who are waiting to cross. Because if I put the camera down here to a lower level, for example the level of a child, you can see that they can't see what is coming up this street. So you walk out here, stick your head out, see if there's a car coming, and away you go. And this motorist here also can't see a child waiting here to cross if there were one. So urban planning, or poor urban planning I should say, one of the big bugbears for many people living in this country, and unfortunately not only here in Spain, but Portugal seems to have a problem with this too. Dangerous crossing the roads at pedestrian crossings in that country too. And another issue which was brought to my attention yesterday by a viewer also is that people are often reluctant to stop at pedestrian crossings. In fact, a lot of drivers think that they are doing you a favor by stopping. And is it just me, or should it be the other way around? Again, you can see how this car is parked very close to the crossing, and if somebody were there with a wheelchair or again a child crossing, a person coming up this street in a car would not be able to see them. And here we have probably the most controversial recent infrastructure change in this city. Just wait for that vehicle to go by. The bike lanes that have been installed over the last couple of months here. And I, in the 20 years or so that I have been living in this city, have never seen anything as controversial as these new bike lanes. I've never seen anything divide public opinion as much as them. Now don't get me wrong, I am not anti-bike lanes, I'm not anti-bike, I'm not Jeremy Clarkson, I don't go getting angry with bike lanes, but I get angry about poor urban planning, and the bike lanes that we just saw are a classic example of that too. Not only the pedestrian crossings, but also the bike lanes. Basically what's happened is that the European Union has thrown millions of euros at town councils here in Spain, and the central government is also promoting ecological transition, and local councils and town halls have been rushed to spend the money. And they've done it really not thinking about some of the possible consequences of their actions. Nothing unusual about that, right? And the biggest complaint, obviously, from motorists is that travel times in this city have, for some people, doubled, especially in peak hour times. Because if you're unlucky enough to get stuck behind a rubbish truck, for example, or a bus that's stopping, you can be stuck there for longer than you were before, because before there were 2 lanes, but they got rid of 1 lane and put in a cycle lane. And that is where the complaint lies for many. And this means that drivers are getting angrier than they normally do. And I have noticed this driving recently here, that people are very irate. People are angry and road rage is increasing. The local government here has recently rectified and changed the original design of the bike lanes. They've got rid of the annoying bollards that were popping up all along the bike lanes, because they realized that if there was a traffic jam, ambulances couldn't get by. Sound familiar? So the company that installed the bollards in the first place over the last week have been busy taking them down. So obviously adding to the cost of the project. But hey, it's European Union money, and I'm sure that taxpayers in the Netherlands, Germany, and other European countries like that wouldn't be worried about a few million euros being wasted on something like this, I'm sure. Here's another example of a badly planned bike lane. But the good news is for us pedestrians that when we cross this dangerous crossing, we can walk on the old cycle lane without risk of getting run down by a cyclist. So every cloud has a silver lining. But hey, it's just all part of the day-to-day of living here in Spain and on the outskirts here in Madrid. Local residents don't really care about things like pedestrian crossings. They don't really care where they are located until, of course, an accident happens and people start scratching their heads and asking why this has happened. But anyway, enough of my rant for today. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. If you have similar problems where you live in Spain, please let me know. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.